Well, this is not good. Kansas City star Sam McDowell breaking the news yesterday that a bullet broke through Chiefs coach Andy Reid's office back in May of 2024. It was just after midnight when a bullet came within 15 to 20 feet of the Chiefs head coach. Now, my immediate reaction to this story is that it was planted, and it was planted for a reason, as this team potentially considers a move out of Missouri over to the Kansas side of the state line. And that the story would just magically happen to leak potentially weeks ahead of a decision made by the Kansas City Chiefs to leave Kansas City for out by the Legends in Wyandotte County. That was my gut reaction to the whole story. I sat here and I said, okay, this stuff doesn't just happen 15 months later because, well, Sam McDowell, who's a good reporter, but he just happens to, do some digging on this and finds out about this gunshot? No, somebody obviously shared it with him. And good job by him getting the report and getting the news. But a lot of people reached out to me last night when this news broke, and they said, what do you think this means? And that was my initial gut reaction. This is setting the stage for a move to the Kansas side of the state line. But then I took a step back, let the emotion kind of subside, and thought to myself, if they were going to go to Kansas, just go, right? Just pick up your stuff and go. The Star Bond offer's been on the table forever. We're going on a year and a half of that Star Bond being available to you. You asked Missouri for their best offer, and now you're going to sit here and say crime in Kansas City might be part of the reason? I mean, do you guys not follow the news? Do you not pay attention to what this town's been going through for the last 5 years? It's not like this is just a new thing, like crime in Kansas. Whoa, this is a totally new concept to me, Mark.
We had something at a Super Bowl parade even.
Yes, thank you for that reminder as well. This is not new. So when I took a step back, I said to myself, maybe it's just as simple as, for whatever reason, Sam McDowell stumbled upon this story. Because the more I thought about it, the more I stacked this thing up and said, okay, I'm not saying they're not going to go to Kansas. I'm not saying that they do not have potentially a very good offer out in Wyandotte County that may be appealing to the Kansas City Chiefs. But if it was that simple, that it was just about crime, and that it was just about keeping players safe and keeping coaches safe and staff members safe. Well, the other thing I would ask is, what kind of security did you guys have around the stadium to begin with? How does somebody with a gun get that close to a practice facility anyway after midnight and end up shooting at or inside the building, whether it's on accident or on purpose? How does that happen when you have multi-million-dollar athletes and coaches coming in and out of Truman Sports Complex? I mean, is there a gate that's left open? How are we sitting here 15 months later with apparently no answers from KCPD? Are there no cameras? All I know is this. If you're Clark Hunt, if you're Mark Donovan, if you're Brett Veach, right? And you've got guys that you're paying tens of millions of dollars a year and hundreds of millions of dollars in total contract money. I'm making sure, and I'm sitting here in a city that, let's be honest, has a top 10 homicide rate in the country. I'm making sure that there are no jabronis that are coming through those gates. I mean, that's just basic common sense to me. So we don't have all the details. Maybe it's somebody who snuck through the woods or something like that. I don't know. I don't pretend to have the answer. But since we sit here without a lot of answers, since KCPD really didn't give the Kansas City Star a whole lot on this, they used the old open investigation convenient excuse, which I understand, but I think there's got to be more here. I mean, I'm sorry. I think that Police Chief Stacey Graves should be talking to the media today about this. I understand there's a lot of people trying to do a lot of good work when it comes to the violent crime issue in Kansas City. And I believe the bulk of the KCPD is part of that solution. But if you don't give some answers on this, people are just going to come to their own conclusions. That's what's going to happen here, and that's not good for anybody. Now, Andy Reid does have bulletproof glass now in his office, and thank goodness for that. But, man, you just sit back and you say to yourself, this is another bad look for Kansas City as a whole. And I don't want that. None of us do. But it's gotten to the point where you can't help but be embarrassed. So we have the mayor of Kansas City, Quentin Lucas. Of course, he's going to be here at 7:30 this morning, and that conversation obviously would take on a whole new meeting and be driven by this story because did he know about it? What does he know about it? What can he share about it? Is there information there that's potentially being covered up? I don't know. I have no idea. I just know what I read in the Kansas City Star, and I reached out to a couple of sources last night. It was late last night when I reached out to these folks, and I have not heard back yet. So now we all just sit here, and I'm not going to jump to any conclusions. I'm just telling you what's been going through my mind on this over the last 12 hours or so since the story broke from Sam McDowell in the Kansas City Star. But it's not a good day if you're Mike Kehoe. It's not a good day if you're Quentin Lucas. It's not a good day if you're sitting here and saying you want to make sure that this football team ends up staying at Arrowhead Stadium. Not that it will be the thing that drives them to Kansas. It won't be that number one issue. But it certainly doesn't help the cause. And that's what we're getting out of this from last night. On the text line, Pete, does it really make a big difference? Why move from one crime-ridden county to another? That's an excellent point as well. Let's be clear here. Wyandotte County is not sitting there as the shining city on the hill, okay? That's not KCK either. Anyone trying to convince you of that is a liar, a stone-cold liar. That's an excellent point. And frankly, one of the best things for KCK, while, they've done a good job on their crime, I think that they've actually had a much better response to violent crime led by Carl Oakman out there in KCK, who does a really good job. He used to be with KC Mo. He took the KCK job a couple of years ago, and they have done a pretty darn good job in recent years getting that number down. But, yeah, I totally understand the point. I mean, let's not sit here and talk about KCK like it is Spring Hill, all right? That's not the case either. So I understand that point on the text line. You're right about that. It's not all roses in Wyandotte County. But because of the attention that Kansas City, Missouri in particular has brought on itself in many cases when it comes to violent crime, that's why this, once again, is another chink in the armor against what they're trying to get done there, and that is basically shed this idea that Kansas City is an incredibly violent place to be. And in too many cases, and for too many people, it is. And that's going to take time to turn around, but also strong leadership. That's why last week when Quentin Lucas and I are going back and forth debating the president's handling of crime in Washington, D.C., look what's going on right now. Crime is down 30% in Washington, D.C. Violent crime is off 30% in Washington, D.C. since the president took over the police department and helped bring in the National Guard. 30%. I mean, who's going to sit here and say they're against that? Who's going to sit here and try to convince you, yeah, that's not a good thing? It's a great thing. More cops, law and order, more resources, more arrests, bad guys off the streets. Everybody should be on board with this. But it's only those who continue to focus on Orange Man Bad, who just can't get over themselves. And that's what so much of this really is about. And it stems all the way back to the stupidity of 2020. It's how we got here in the first place. 913-408-7957 is our text line and our studio line on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM. Coming up, Frank White is looking for your sympathy. Why would that be the case? Just over a month away from his recall election. I want you to hear this from me, says Frank White. After much prayer, reflection, and discussion with my family, I have decided that I do not plan to seek re-election as the Jackson County executive when my term ends next year. That is in a letter that Frank White wrote yesterday to his associates, saying that even if he survives the recall election coming up on September 30th, he is not, he says here, going to seek re-election as county executive. Now, why would he do this? Sympathy. This is basically his last stand to say, vote to keep me, and I promise I'll go away next year. That's basically what Frank White is pitching you on right now. Hey, Jackson County, you love me, right? I'm a legend here. I'm a hometown kid. You know what we did on the baseball field. And give me another 12 to 15 months. How bad can I really screw it up anyway, John?
Well, that seems like the ball player thing to do, right?
Yep.
I'm retiring. Okay, let's all go out to the ballpark and wave Frank out. Hey.
It is like the Derek Jeter retirement tour he's going like for here. There's an element to that for sure. And I hope this thing fails colossally. Trust me, there is zero sympathy to have here for Frank White, the county executive. Frank White, the man, I actually do have sympathy for Frank White, the man. Maybe you don't. Maybe I'm too much of a softie sometimes. But I do have sympathy for Frank White, the man, because the legacy for thousands of Kansas Cityans is going to be this. It's going to have nothing to do with baseball. I mean, how many of us weren't born, have no memory of Frank White playing baseball? You're under 40 at this point. You really don't. So think about that. And if you're a homeowner in Jackson County or a resident in Jackson County, you're going to know him as the incompetent county executive who potentially got booted from office by his own citizens. That's what could happen on September 30th of this year. It's really a sad fall from grace. So Frank writes this letter. He says, while I do not, so he says here that he's not going to seek re-election, right? He says he prayed about it, reflected, discussion with the family. But 2 paragraphs later, he says, while I do not plan to run again, I must be candid. There is a part of me that could reconsider. So wait, are you not going to run for re-election if you survive the recall? Or are you going to run for re-election if you survive the recall? Which one is it? In the second paragraph of this letter, he says, I do not plan to seek re-election. But then he says, while I do not plan to run again, 2 paragraphs later, I must be candid. There's a part of me that could reconsider. So you're not even being straight with your own associates. This letter is Frank White in a nutshell. There's no there. There's no substance. There's no meaning. The letter is intended to be, I'm not running for re-election. But 2 paragraphs after that, he contradicts himself and says there's a part of him that could reconsider. Why, even if you were thinking that, why would you put that in the letter? I mean, that is so asinine to put that in a letter that's supposed to be about the fact that you're not going to run for re-election and then say, well, there's a part of me that might consider running for re-election. What? You've got to be kidding me. He goes on to say after that, I have real concerns about the motivations of some individuals currently serving on or working for the legislature. I mean, that's not wrong. He's right. It's a murderer's row of morons in Jackson County.
Frank.
Yeah, exactly. They're all peas in a pod. They deserve each other for the most part. All right, there's a couple of reasonably competent ones, but, man, it's, it's not exactly the cream of the crop there, okay? As I watch this cartoon, Liberty's Kids, with my children on YouTube the last few weeks about the Founding Fathers, trust me, the Founding Fathers would be embarrassed by this cadre of cartoon characters in Jackson County. I mean, somewhere, Ben Franklin and company are rolling around in their graves. You're like, this is what we've got now in our political class? Holy cow. This is not what this was intended to be. But it's what we've got. So Frank goes on to say here that my hope in sharing this now is to provide enough time for strong, qualified leaders to step forward, not only for county executive, but also for legislative seats, leaders who will put the people of Jackson County first. And that starts at the top. Not people who put the Kansas City Monarchs first. Not people who prefer to stand down the first baseline, tapping tushes all day, instead of doing the work of the people who are paying them six figures, right? It's pretty much common sense. So that's where Frank White needs to get ahead here. That's where Frank White needs to really be the guy to lead by example here. He could step down tomorrow and just say, listen, he could claim victim status. He could claim all the big power brokers and people are out to get him, and there was no point in going forward. He could do that. And then, if he truly felt like the people had his back, he could lobby for an interim replacement. He could then lobby for somebody to run in 2026. If that's really how he feels, Frank White could do that, no problem. He could get that done. Because it is true, it's going to be ugly in terms of figuring out who the interim county executive is going to be if and when Frank White does get recalled on September 30th, which I feel like is all but certain to happen. But there's still a lot of questions in terms of what all this means going forward and how Frank White ultimately does end up exiting if he does get recalled next month, which does feel like all but a done deal to me. 913-408-7957 is our studio line and our text line on KCMO Talk Radio. 95.7 FM, streaming on the KCMO Talk Radio app. We've got this from Manny Abarca on the old X account. He says, Frank White wrote this letter to the county staff. Great, but still vote yes to recall him so we can start solving problems now. You know what else needs to come out of this? Another important story out of the Frank White saga. I hope that people like Clark Hunt and John Sherman get more involved in our local elections. I know some of you will say you don't want billionaires buying elections. Listen, they're all involved. We need them involved more locally with just reasonably competent people. Help turn out the vote. Help get people out. That's what we need. Because if not, this is what you get. You get a very unimpressive group of people who are trying to run the county and, frankly, getting in the way of major things like the future of the Chiefs and the future of the Royals because of how poorly the county is run and because of the people in charge. And these guys got to realize these local politicians that, most people don't care about have a major impact on them and their businesses. And I would love to have them involved in some of these local elections. What are you doing, Cracker Barrel? 47 years. You have an iconic logo. And you put these people in charge and they're like, you know what? It's time to change it up. We don't need that logo anymore. We need something that's sterile, that's boring, that has no life, that's listless. That's what we need, says the CEO of Cracker Barrel. Did you see this? It's up on our KCMO Talk Radio Facebook page. And it is one of the worst rebrandings I've seen in a long time. They went from the super cool logo with, the guy hanging out, standing on the side of the barrel, looking really sweet, just chilling. You had the old country store line underneath the logo. It was great. Now, it's like something out of a marketing boardroom made by a bunch of Gen Zers on Madison Avenue. It means nothing. It has no style. It doesn't make you feel anything. It's bland. It's everything that the old logo wasn't. It looks like crap, John.
Well, it's one step away. Pretty soon the next rebrand will be just calling it The Crack.
Yeah.
We're headed, right?
You're right, man. They're just basically watering down the logo and the brand itself.
Looks a little too MAGA.
I know. It's like, come on. We can't have this guy.
It looks country, kind of MAGA.
I know. That's exactly right. Exactly right. So the company said in an announcement here, anchored in Cracker Barrel's signature golden brown tones, the updated visuals will appear across menus and marketing collateral, including the fifth evolution of the brand's logo, which is now rooted even more closely to the iconic barrel shape and word mark that started it all. Oh, my goodness gracious. You people are so dumb. You overthink this stuff. You try to justify your paycheck by creating a new logo that didn't need to be recreated or rethought, John, or reimagined, the word of the decade, it seems.
I think I know the answer to this. Have you been in a Cracker Barrel?
Yes.
Or say recently? Okay.
Not in a few years, but I've
well, I don't know that it's changed a whole lot in a few years. Yeah, that's kind of an interesting amalgamation of items when you go in there in the first place. So,
yes.
You know, if I need a copy of the Eagles Hotel California on vinyl, I'm pretty sure I can go down to Belton there and grab that in the lobby. Well, they got you on the tourist trap, right, when you go in before you eat, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, but you know what? That's part of what makes it Cracker Barrel,
well,
man.
That's true. Absolutely.
I mean,
you've got to negotiate that and run the gauntlet.
Yes.
As a dad and as the wallet of the family.
I have not been with the girls yet.
Oh,
so,
no.
Yeah,
Oh, well, okay.
Yes. Yes.
That's going to be different, won't it?
There's one over on Strangline. Maybe I'll try to go over there at some point. But here's some of the information that the company is sharing. The company is also offering customers in the U.S. a complimentary classic side with any purchase this weekend at its nearly 660 locations, August 23rd and 24th. Well, the 24th is my birthday. Maybe I know what I'm doing now. Go to Cracker Barrel, get a free classic side.
The missus loves it. They serve mimosas at one by us. So.
Oh, do they?
Yeah.
Wow. Well, we got to get her take then at some point, John.
There you go. That's my thing. They're rebranding as the Crack pretty soon. You know, how can you resist? You're hooked once you're there.
So here's what the CEO had to say on Good Morning America. She claims everyone loves this. This is great. You can't go wrong with the new Cracker Barrel logo.
Honestly, the feedback's been overwhelmingly positive that people like what we're doing. I'll give you another soundbite. I actually happened to be in Orlando last week with all of our managers. We bring them together and every other year. And the number one question that I got asked, Michael, was, how can I get a remodel? When can I get a remodel? How do I get on the list?
Oh, really?
So because the feedback and the buzz is so good, not only from our customers, but from our team members. They want to work in a wonderful restaurant. So we're doing everything for our guests and our team members.
Well, Julie Messino, it's wonderful to have you here.
Pleasure to be
thank
here.
You
thank you
for
again.
answering those questions for all the Cracker Barrel fans out there. There's a lot of great changes.
Thank you so much.
I don't think Michael Strahan's buying that for a second. He was like, oh, really? Oh, you mean people actually like this? You mean your managers actually think this logo change is a good idea for Cracker Barrel? There was nothing about this that Michael Strahan was buying. And if Michael Strahan's not buying it, you know that regular Americans are not buying this one at all. I mean, this is the worst logo rebrand we've seen in a long time. I'm trying to think of one that was this bad, and nothing's coming to mind. This is just absolutely brutal. So if you want to see it, it's up on our KCMO Talk Radio page. And maybe they'll be rebranding the Crack next. That could be what's coming there, John. But you go this weekend. Take the missus. Let me know what she thinks. All right?
Crackers in uproar over barrel logo change.
Well, at 6:40 on a Thursday, we're an hour away from Mayor Lucas joining us. President Trump has posted on his Truth Social about Missouri. This just breaking here in the last few minutes. The president posting about the state of Missouri, saying here, the great state of Missouri is now in. I'm not surprised. It is a great state with fabulous people. I won it all 3 times in a landslide. We're going to win the midterms in Missouri again, bigger and better than ever before. That is referring to redistricting, which, of course, has been top of mind in this state. Missouri is going to be, according to President Trump, next up on redistricting its map from a 6-2 Republican map to a 7-1 Republican map. What does that mean? Sayonara to Emmanuel Cleaver.
You mustard moo.
That's what it means. It's as simple as that. Emmanuel Cleaver is going to be toast.
Hartzell's run was over before it started.
Yeah, that's so true. That's so true. This guy Hartzell running to the left of Cleaver. He is primarying him in the biggest waste of time of a campaign I've ever seen. But now it's totally a lost cause because Cleaver's district is going to be redrawn and it will be a Republican-leaning district. Now, it also means that Mark Alford's district and Sam Graves' district has to also become a little more blue, which could be a dicey move. But President Trump, whether he talked to Governor Mike Kehoe or not, I don't know the answer to that. But I could see Trump just doing this to put more pressure on Mike Kehoe, you know?
I believe Trump mentioned Mark Alford in a Truth Social post a couple days ago.
He did give
Probably
Mark
leading up
Alford
to this.
his complete and total endorsement.
Yeah.
Yes, for re-election next year. So not that it was ever in doubt, but Mark Alford did get an endorsement yesterday from President Trump. And then a day later, President Trump comes out in the last hour and puts here on his Truth Social that Missouri is going to go ahead and redistrict and squeeze out Emanuel Cleaver. So that looks like it's all but a done deal. I've been skeptical of it since the get-go. I don't like the idea of creating more competitive general elections. You've got a lock on this 6-2 map. You make it a 7-1 map, and in a bad year, you're playing with some fire here. And that's my concern. Everyone thinks that politics just stay as they are right now. Look at what the last 10 years have brought us, politically speaking, right? All over the country. States have changed. Parts of the country have shifted. Southern Texas, with a large Latino population, was a heavily Democratic area of the state. Now it's deep red. This stuff changes. Things shift. They move around. So you can draw a map right now and say, yeah, this is a great map for us. It's a 7-1 map. Look at us. Life is good. But I'm just saying, be careful what you wish for. It's not that I care about Emanuel Cleaver. It's not that I care about maybe Quentin Lucas running for Emanuel Cleaver's seat one day. That's not the point here. The point is you may make the general elections for Sam Graves, Mark Alford, and this new 5th Congressional District more difficult. And in a bad year, who knows what that looks like? Because remember, as the parties keep shifting, Republicans are becoming the party of low propensity voters. That means they're less likely to vote in every election, but more likely to vote in presidential elections. As the parties shift and you're looking at redistricting, that may not be good for the Republican Party in midterms. Jim's out east. Go ahead, Jim. You're on KCMO.
Hey, Pete, just kind of go along with your point there. It's not the maps that make the difference. It's still the voters.
Yep.
I mean, everybody keeps saying it's going to change the seats. Well, it doesn't change the seats till the day of the election.
Yeah, you're right about that. Absolutely. And, that's why I'm skeptical of this whole thing and how this is actually going to play out in Missouri and what it means for the other Republican seats in districts like Alford and Graves.
Right. Instead of drawing lines, spend more money in who you want in that office and change the seats rather than redrawing lines all the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. Oh. And then the other part of this, too, is you look at it and you say to yourself, okay, will Democrats now actually spend money in Missouri? Because right now they don't spend anything. They don't have anything statewide. They've got their 2 congressional seats. But if suddenly they think they're competitive in a couple of districts in Missouri in the general election, are they going to start spending money in Missouri? And what does that mean then? I mean, when they spend money in this state, it's usually on ballot issues, right? And they do pretty well in those. What does it mean if they start spending in congressional races? Call us up. 3 mediocre white guys here on a Thursday morning on KCMO Talk Radio. Good job there by Bill O'Reilly. And guess what? There are also mediocre Asians, mediocre Latinos, mediocre blacks, and yes, mediocre whites. There are mediocre people across every single racial group, believe it or not. How about that? Novel concept, I know. Bill O'Reilly was on the show yesterday. If you missed it, you can find that on the podcast. Wherever you get your podcasts, Bill was outstanding. We talked about the Trump, Putin, Zelensky, EU drama, trying to bring that war to an end. And we also talked about MSNBC changing to MS Now. And speaking of MSNBC, Take a look at and take a listen to this. This is from this morning. Morning Joe on MSNBC had this segment, and they were talking about something we told you about. Was it yesterday or 2 days ago? Either way, we told you about it much earlier than MSNBC did. And that's the fact that of the 30 states that track voter registration, Democrats are losing in every single one of those states, which is just fascinating. I'm not doing it to dance in any political party's grave. That's not the point, because this stuff does change. But it was data from the last 4 years that showed in the 30 states that track voter registration by political party, Democrats have lost a total of 4 million voters. When you factor in their 2 million losses with the Republicans' 2 million gains, it's 4.5 million voters that have shifted to the Republican Party in voter registration across those 30 states over the last few years. So MSNBC trying to analyze this is obviously hysterical, because you have all these people who are obviously very upset by this news trying to figure out what happened. And take a listen to this clip from this morning. Joe Scarborough with Molly Jong-Fast. She is an MSNBC contributor, previously wrote for the Daily Beast, which is an online publication, then The Atlantic, then Vanity Fair. So you understand kind of where her head is at, right? And now she's been an MSNBC political analyst for the last year and a half or so. Here's what she said in response to this big news from the New York Times that came earlier in the week.
Breathing into a paper bag. I'm trying to calm down a little bit. But John just quoted a remarkable stat out of the New York Times that in the 30 states where they track voter registration over the past 4 years, Democrats have lost to Republicans in every single state. Why?
So this is the $24 million question, right? Why are Democrats not, why are the polls bad? Why are they not breaking through? And I think it's a couple things. I think one is the people who are breaking through are brave, right? They talk like humans. They make the case, and again, it's like Pritzker's chief of staff told me. It's not necessarily left versus center. It's fight versus cave. And the people who fight get support. And the people who cave or are mealy-mouthed or are, very sort of corporatist-y, that crew, the crew that's afraid, cannot break through, does not appeal to voters. The question is, it's only going to be for people who really feel authentic, right?
Sherrod's never been afraid of a shadow.
Exactly.
He's always spoken his mind.
Chris Murphy, Sherrod Brown, Mondami, these people, AOC, they're not all exactly the same politically, but they are the same in the fact that they're brave and they break through.
Wow. I'm pretty confident that's not the person you want analyzing the problems within that political party right now. If what you're saying and what Molly Jong-Fast there of MSNBC is claiming is that the problem with the party is they don't have people who are very left-wing and brave enough to stand up to Republicans, if you think that's the problem, then please keep doubling down on that. Please. If you want to use people like Chris Murphy, if you want to use people like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, this guy Mamdani, who's probably going to be the next New York City mayor, who is a self-described socialist, if you want more of that, if you think people doubling down on that in your political party will help grow your party, please, be my guest. I'm not going to sit here and stop you. I'm really not. I will sit here and just laugh all the way to the bank on that if that's the route you want to go down. Trust me. But that's not the problem here. The problem is a very simple one. You've doubled down on 80-20 issues on the 20 side. That's the big thing. On crime, opposing the guy who is trying to actually help crime-ridden Washington, D.C. with more law and order. We all know, and we've, talked plenty about the 80-20 issues like men and women's sports. You double down on some of those issues. You dumb down on some of these very progressive issues that really only matter to the people who went to liberal arts undergrad and then spent another half a dozen years getting 3 master's degrees that are totally useless. that doesn't appeal to a wide swath of the American public. It just doesn't. And that's going to be, if history properly tells the story about this current period of time, yes, Donald Trump is a unique historical political figure. But he also had the incredible luck of running against opponents and running against a party that has gotten so out of touch with regular Americans that they have become their own worst enemy. And it doesn't take anything away from Trump, but that's just part of the story. It's part of the narrative. It's part of this moment in American history. And MSNBC wondering why this is happening and putting on people like that to analyze, like self-assess. Oh, my goodness. It's hysterical. Forget MS now. These people are MS yesterday. They are totally caught up in the nonsense of 5 years ago that most Americans are now seeing through. So the new segment we're doing in 1 hour, we're calling it Ask Mundo Anything. You know, you see these people on social media do the AMA, Ask Me Anything. And I've seen my wife watch these videos online, and you see them on social media. And I said, you know what? We need a staple on Thursday outside of Mayor Lucas. So we'll do it at 8:50, 1 hour. Ask Me Anything. I don't care what it is. We'll do it in 1 hour for the first time ever here on KCMO. Jay and Gladstone, we just had Mayor Lucas on. What do you got, Jay?
Good morning, Pete. I'm fired up. They spent $20 million on that choo-choo to nowhere. They spent God knows how much on those bike lanes that are useless and nobody uses. And that $17 million that they spent on that Sunfresh, I bet they could lease a lot of ground from Hunt underneath Worlds of Fun and warehouse, a square mile worth of prisoners and still have money left over to, fix the roads.
Yep, that's probably true, Jay. I mean, if you're making the case for wasteful spending, that's certainly you made some of the highlights when it comes to wasteful spending in Kansas City. You're right. Every major American city has it. No doubt about it. Paul in Kansas City, you're on KCMO. What's up, Paul?
Hey, Pete. Yeah, when you challenge the mayor on the D.C. crime stats the last 30 days, he comes back with this flippant analogy. Well, we can't put 3 tanks in front of my house. I can't afford it. And this is from a guy that just cut a $750,000 check to a failed grocery store. This is why Democrats are losing on this issue, because they're telling the Kansas City public, you're on your own when it comes to crime. No help's coming. That was ridiculous.
And how do you feel about that as a Kansas City resident?
Yeah, that's how I feel. I mean, I feel that here in South Kansas City where I live, you're on your own. He's telling you that I can't afford it. I got to spend money on putting lights on the KCTV tower. I've got to spend money on a grocery store that's a socialist store. But I'm not going to give you any law enforcement help. We're not coming.
Would you take the tank outside of your house?
Well, I can defend myself. I'm good. It's just the rest of the people I'm worried about. But yeah.
All right.
But that was just a flippant comment I thought to you, that in response to your articulate data that you were presenting to him.
All right, there you go. Thank you, Paul, a.k.a. John Wayne, taking care of South Kansas City. There you go. I like it, Paul. Thank you very much. Listen, I understand the frustration, okay? I get it. It's been a rough few years for this town, understandably so, on this issue. Chris in Kansas City, go.
District. Hey, Pete. I just got a quick question for you. Would you, and you run a great show, would you ever consider taking a call when the mayor is on so your beloved audience can hit him with a few questions?
Well, it's not up to me. I mean, I would do that in a heartbeat. But that's not entirely my call, right? It's partially up to him. He'd have to agree to that. So trust me, that'd be great radio. Okay, and that's what I'm in the business of. Not sure he would agree to it. Kind of understandably so, potentially, depending on where it would go. One of those big things still trying to figure out is Andrew Bailey, right? Why he is leaving Missouri as the Attorney General and taking that co-deputy FBI director role alongside Dan Bongino. And just so you know, Mark Alford's Capitol Report show this weekend, Saturday afternoons, and then again on Sunday mornings, will be revisiting a long-form conversation with Andrew Bailey. So make sure you check that out Saturday afternoon here on KCMO Talk Radio, 1 o'clock, and then again on Sunday morning at 8:30. Now, I am not a frivolous lawsuit guy. I'm not. I'm prefacing my comments with that. But I love the idea of suing these airlines for the idea of you paying for a window seat and not getting a window next to you. I'm all on board with that. United and Delta Airlines are facing a pair of lawsuits brought by passengers who said they paid extra for a window seat only to find themselves sitting against a blank wall. The proposed class action lawsuits filed this week against United in San Francisco federal court and Delta in Brooklyn, New York's federal court. Both cases seek millions in damages for more than 1 million passengers. So if you're someone who's paid for a window seat and you're not next to a window, well, maybe you can jump in on this lawsuit. The complaint claims that certain Boeing planes have blocked windows in some rows due to air conditioning ducts, electrical conduits, or other systems. However, while competitor airlines like American and Alaska flag these seat kinks during the booking process, Delta and United do not, even while charging tens or hundreds of dollars more for them. I'm all in. These airlines have become such a joke, and they have become so abusive to their customers that if you're going to pay for the upgrade of sitting by a window, you better damn well have a window next to you, John. And if not, these airlines have to block out those seats. This is not difficult to do. And at least in the case of United and Delta, they're being accused of not doing it.
Oh, I agree with you 100% on that. It's like a concert where you get limited view. At least, you can see something, but this doesn't even offer you a crack, right?
Nope.
It's just there was a window hole there. It was modeled for that, but because of various constructions, it doesn't exist.
I am all in on this.
That's like getting a pillar at the stadium.
Yeah,
really.
Yes. It's like sitting at, Fenway
They're
or
gonna
Wrigley.
pay you, matter of fact, now I'm thinking about it. Right?
Yeah.
It's kind of claustrophobic sitting all the way in the corner. You're in the penalty box.
You really are in those seats. They're brutal. And for an industry that's such a mess, it's one of the biggest reasons. Something that got overlooked at the end of Joe Biden's term in office. He blocked the merger of Spirit and JetBlue. Remember that? And one of the reasons they blocked the merger of Spirit and JetBlue is because they said it would create less competition. Well, the reason they were merging is because financially, economically, they couldn't survive separately. So now what are you hearing? Spirit Airlines may go under. Now, Spirit Airlines, don't get me wrong. I'm pretty confident that you couldn't pay me to fly on Spirit Airlines based on the videos that come out on social media from Spirit Airlines flights. Okay? I mean, it's like, oh my gosh. Have you seen some of those videos? Woo! Needless to say, it is a who's who of bottom of the barrel, sometimes human beings that are riding on Spirit. It's bad. So what's going to happen now? Spirit may go under. There will be then, as a result, fewer companies and less competition. So the Biden administration should have allowed Spirit and JetBlue to merge. That would have been a no-brainer, okay? Because now what's going to happen if Spirit goes under, you have one less company anyway. And the one company that's left, in this case JetBlue, is not as competitive as it may have been had they merged with Spirit to begin with. That's why I understand sometimes, these administrations want to pump the brakes on mergers and claim they're looking out for the little guy. But if Spirit goes under, you're talking about hundreds, if not thousands of jobs that no longer exist. And you have one less airline company to compete with everybody else.
When you're talking about the Biden administration, though, you do have to redefine no-brainer.
Come on, man.
Yeah, that's true. That's an excellent point.
What are we talking about?
Exactly.
Oh, man, that's so true. That's so true. I just hate how these airline companies charge you for everything now. Everything. And then you show up. This is the worst, right? Because it happens to us when we travel with the kids and we go to see family and whatnot. I mean, I take more flights with 3 little kids than I care to admit. But you show up to the airport, and they're like, all right, let's put that bag on the old scale here. Oh, boy, you're at 51 pounds. Max is 50. Meantime, I'm standing next to a guy who's 400 pounds who paid the same amount of money for the ticket, and he's not getting charged more. I don't understand that. I don't understand why my bag can't be 1 pound overweight, but the weight of the person is irrelevant. Can someone explain that part of air travel to me? Because I genuinely don't get it. But then I got to go through the bag, and we got to take this out and put it into the kids' bags, and the kids are, jumping all over the weight thing. I'm like, don't touch the weight thing, okay?
They're tipping it.
Filled with germs. You're adding weight to the bag. Like, would you get off of that, please? Oh, my goodness. And then you have the person just standing there kind of staring at you.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you're down to 50 and a half.
Yeah.
Can you take out a T-shirt? It's like, can you guys take out some common sense for once, please? Man, it's just brutal. So I'm all in on that. We're going to have Rich Lowry coming up here in a few minutes on KCMO. Hey, John, you mentioned the Torchy's Tacos shutting down there at the top of the hour news.
Mm-hmm.
They've only got one left down by Mark and I at 119th and Strangline. I was not surprised. I think Torchy's Tacos is very good. They're down. They were based out of Austin, Texas. That's where I had them first, probably about 10 years ago. They opened up here in Kansas City. But I'll tell you what, that Ward Parkway spot is a bad location.
Mm-hmm.
And the one in Overland Park is back by the Shields, and it's kind of hidden back there. That's another bad location.
Yeah.
So I'm all in on Torchy's Tacos, but I admit I'm not surprised those two locations are closing just because of where they're located.
They haven't said. They're not vacating the market, at least at the moment, so I maybe wouldn't be surprised if they got more visible locations somewhere else.
I think they should try it because, I mean, they do a good job with fast
Fuzzy's
casual.
does well. The taco thing's going big.
Yes,
Yeah.
taco thing is in, man.
I'm just one of those guys, I'll eat a grease one. I got all scale. It doesn't matter. Taco Bell, Taco Villa, all of it.
You ever been there, Mark, over to that one or no?
I've driven by it plenty, but never stopped in.
I know. You're too busy going to Joe's across the street.
Exactly right.
I know. That's where the girls love it. I can't get on you for that. But once you got to go across the street, my man, okay? You check it out. Tell me what you think. The only issue with Torchy's I have is that, and I found this out when I went to the first one down in Austin, Texas. Now, I don't care. They got good tacos, so I don't hold this against them. But they used to have a Republican and a Democrat taco. They would call it the Republican and the Democrat. And the Democrat was their best taco on the menu, and the Republican taco was the worst taco on the menu.
Yeah, the one with the beef and cheese.
It had like a hot dog in it. It was awful.
Austin.
I know. It was
Right.
very Austin of them. Now, I don't hold it against them, okay? I can't live my life that way, looking through the prism of politics for everything I do. But they did get rid of that on the menu, at least in the Kansas City area. I don't see it up here.